Chapter 27. Coriolanus scanned the area, trying to hide his growing anxiety. Where was Sejanus? Adrenaline fought with the white liquor for control of his brain. He had been so steeped in music and alcohol that he really didn't know when Sejanus disappeared. What if he hadn't changed heart about Liv? Was she out there in the crowd conspiring with the rebels at this very moment? He waited for the audience to finish applauding Maud Ivory and Lucy Gray before he rose to his feet. Just as he began to make his way to the door, he saw Sejanus returning in the hazy light. Where you been? Coriolanus asked. Outside, that white liquor runs right through me. Sejanus sat in his crate and turned his attention to that stage. Coriolanus resumed his seat as well as eyes in the entertainment, his thoughts anywhere but. White liquor didn't run through anyone. It was too strong, the amount consumed too small. Another lie. What did that mean? That he couldn't let Sejanus out of his sight for 1 second now? Throughout the rest of the show, he kept shooting sideways glances at him to make sure he didn't sneak off again. He stayed close after Maud Ivory collected money in her ribbon basket, but Sejanus seemed focused on helping Bug steer a drunken beanpole back to the base. No opportunity presented itself for further discussion. If in fact Sejanus had slipped away to plot with the rebels, Coriolanus directly confronting him after the Billy Top incident had obviously failed. A new strategy was clearly called for. Sunday dawned too brightly for Coriolanus' throbbing head. He threw up the white liquor and stood in the shower until his eyes focused properly again. The greasy eggs at the mess hall were unthinkable, so he nibbled on toast while Sejanus finished both of their helpings, only confirming Coriolanus' suspicions that he consumed next to no alcohol the night before, certainly not enough to have it run through him. Their 3 bunkmates had not even managed to get up for breakfast. Until he thought of a better approach, he'd have to watch him like a hawk, especially when they left the base. Today, anyway, he'd need a companion to go to the lake. Although Coriolanus' own enthusiasm had waned, Sejanus cheerfully accepted the invitation. Sure, it sounds like a holiday. Let's take some ice. While Sejanus talked Cookie out of another plastic bag, Coriolanus went to the kitchen for an aspirin. They met up at the guardhouse and then set out. Not knowing a shortcut to the scene, they returned to the town square and retraced their steps from the previous week. Coriolanus considered attempting another heart-to-heart with Sejanus, but if the threat of being found guilty of treason didn't move him, what would? And he didn't know for sure that he'd been conspiring with the rebels. Maybe he really had just needed to take a piss last night, in which case accusing him would only make him defensive. The only really difference he had was the hidden money. Maybe Strabo had insisted he'd take it, but Sejanus was determined never to use it. He didn't value money, and munitions money was probably burdensome to him. It might be a point of honor with him to make it in his own. If Lucy Gray was still upset about the tip, she didn't show it. Actually, hold on, did I skip a page? Yeah, no, it didn't. Okay. So if Lucy Gray was still upset about the tip, she didn't show it. She greeted him at the back door with a kiss and a glass of cold water to tide him over until they reached the lake. It's 2 to 3 hours depending on the briars, but it's worth it. For once, the Covey left the instruments behind. Barbara Zora stayed at home, too, to keep an eye on things. She sent them off with a bucket containing a jug of water, a loaf of bread, and an old blanket. She just started seeing a gal down the road, confided Lucy Gray, when they were out of earshot of the house, probably glad to have the place to themselves for the day. Tam Amber led the rest of them across the meadow and into the woods. Clerk Carmine, Maud Ivory, and Sejanus formed a line behind them, leaving Lucy Gray and Coriolanus to bring up the rear. There was no path. They followed single file, stepping over fallen trees, pushing aside branches, trying to skirt prickly bushes that bobbed up underneath. Within 10 minutes, nothing remained of District 12 but the acrid smells from the mines. Within 20, even that had been cloaked by vegetation. The canopy of trees provided shade from the sun, but little respite from the heat. The hum of insects, chatter of squirrels, and birdsong filled the air, undisturbed by their presence. Even with 2 days of bird duty under his belt, Coriolanus felt increasingly wary the farther away they got from what passed for civilization out here. He wondered what other creatures, larger, more powerful, and fanged, might be lurking in the trees. He had no weapon of any kind. After that realization, he pretended to need a walking stick and stopped a moment to strip a sturdy fallen branch of its excess limbs. How does he know the way? He asked Lucy Gray, nodding the head to Tam Amber. We all know the way, she said. It's our second home. As no one else acted concerned, he trooped along for what seemed like an eternity, happy when Tam Amber pulled the group up. But he only said, about halfway. They passed around the bag of ice, drinking what had melted and sucking on the remaining cubes. Maud Ivory complained of a pain in her foot and pulled off her cracked brown shoe to show a good-sized blister. These shoes don't walk right. They're an old pair of Clerk Carmine's. We're trying to make the last summer, said Lucy Gray, examining the little foot with a frown. They're too tight, said Maud Ivory. I want herring boxes like in the song. Sejanus crouched, offering her his back. How about a ride instead? Maud Ivory scampered aboard. Watch out for my head. Once the precedent was set, they took turns of carrying the little girl. No longer needing to exert herself, she used her lungs for singing. In a cavern, in a canyon, excavating for a mine, dwelled a miner, 49er, and his daughter, Clementine. Like she was, and like a fairy, and her shoes were number 9. Herring boxes without tops as sandals were for Clementine. To Coriolanus' dismay, a mocking jay chorus picked up the melody from high in the branches. He had not expected them to be out this far, The things were positively infesting the woods, but Maud Ivory was delighted and kept right going. Coriolanus carried her the final leg and distracted her by thanking her for the Lucy Gray song the night before. "What'd you make of it?" she asked. He dodged the question. "I liked it very much. You were fantastic." "Thanks, but I meant the song. Do you think people really see Lucy Gray? Or they're just dreaming her," she said. "Because I think they really see her. Only now she flies like a bird." "Does she?" Coriolanus felt better that the cryptic song was at least subject to debate, and he wasn't too dim to grasp the one erudite interpretation. "Well, how else can she not make footprints?" she said. "I think she flies around and tries not to meet people because they kill her because she's different." "Yep, she's different. She's a ghost, Bonehead," said Clark Carmine. "Ghosts don't leave footprints because they're like air." "Then where's her body?" asked Coriolanus, feeling that at least Maud Ivory's version made some sense. "She fell off the bridge and died, only it's so far down no one could see her." "Or maybe there was a river and it washed her away," said Clark Carmine. "Anyway, she's dead and she's haunting the place. How can she fly without wings?" "She didn't fall off the bridge. The snow would look different where she landed," Maud Ivory insisted. "Lucy Gray, which is it?" "It's a mystery, sweetheart, just like me. That's why it's my song," Lucy Gray answered. By the time they arrived at the lake, Coriolanus was panting and parched, and his rash burned from sweat. When the covey stripped down their undergarments and plunged in the water, he lost no time in following suit. He waded out in the cold water and embraced him, clearing the cobwebs from his head and soothing his rash. He swam well, having been taught from an early age in school, but he never tried it anywhere but a pool. The muddy lake floor dropped off quickly, and he had a sense of deep water. He cruised out to the middle of the lake and floated on his back, taking in the scenery. The woods rose up all around, and although there seemed to be no access roads, small broken houses dotted the banks. Most were beyond repair, but a solid-looking concrete structure still had a roof and a door shut tight against the wild. A family of ducks swam by a few feet away, and he could spot fish down below his toes. Concerned over what else might be swimming around and prompted him back to head shore, where the covey had already pulled Sejanus into some kind of keep-away game using a large pine cone for a ball. Coriolanus joined in, glad to be doing something just for fun. The strain of being a full-fledged adult every day had grown tiresome. After a brief rest, Tam Amber made a couple of fishing poles, trimming down tree branches and attaching thread and homemade hooks, while Clerk Carmine dug for worms, and Maud Ivory enlisted Sejanus to pick berries. "Stay away from that patch near the rocks," warned Lucy Gray. "Snakes like it there." "She also knows where they'll be," Maud Ivory told Sejanus as she led him away. "She catches them in her hands, but they scare me." That left Coriolanus and Lucy Gray to collect dry wood for fire. It all excited him a little, the swimming half naked among wild creatures, the building a fire in the open air, the unorchestrated time with Lucy Gray. She had a box of matches, but they were dear, and she said she had to make do with just one. When the flame caught in a pile of dry leaves, he sat close to her on the ground as they fed it first the twigs, then larger scraps of wood, feeling happier to be alive than he had in weeks. Lucy Gray leaned in his shoulder. "Listen, I'm sorry if I upset you last night. I wasn't laying my daddy's death on you. We were both kids just when that happened." "I know, I'm sorry if I overreacted. It's just I can't pretend I'm someone I'm not. I don't agree with everything Capital does, but I am Capital, and on the whole I think we're right about needing order," says Coriolanus. "The Covey believe you're put on Earth to reduce the misery, not to add to it. You think the Hunger Games are right?" she asked. "I'm not even sure why we do them, but to be honest, I do think people are forgetting the war too fast. What we did to each other, what we're capable of. Districts and Capital, both. I know the Capital must seem hardline on here, but we're just trying to keep things under control. Otherwise there'll be chaos and people running around killing each other like in the arena." This was the first time he tried to put his thoughts into words with anyone other than Dr. Gall. He felt a little unsteady like a toddler learning to walk, but he felt the independence of getting on his feet well. Lucy Gay drew back a bit. "That's what you think people would do?" "I do, unless there's law and someone enforcing it. I think we might as well be animals," he said, with more assurance. "Like it or not, the Capitol's the only thing keeping anyone safe." "Huh, so they keep me safe. What do I give up for that?" she asked. Coriolanus poked the fire with a stick. "Give up? Why, nothing." "The Covey did," she said. "Can't travel, can't perform without their say-so, can only sing certain types of songs, fight getting round up, you get shot like my daddy, try to keep your family together and you get your head broken like my mama. What if you think the price is too high to pay? Maybe my freedom's worth the risk." "So your family were rebels after all," Coriolanus wasn't really surprised. "My family were Covey first and last," Lucy Gray said. "Not district, not capital, not rebel, not peacekeeper, just us, and you're like us. You want to think for yourself, you push back. I know because of what you did for me in the games." Well, she had him there. If the Hunger Games were thought necessary by the Capitol, and if he had tried to thwart them, he had not refuted the Capitol's authority, pushed back, as she said. Not like Sejanus and outward defiance, but in a quiet or subtler way of his own. "Here's what I believe. If the Capitol wasn't in charge, we wouldn't even be having this conversation, because we'd have destroyed ourselves by now. People have been around a long time without the Capitol. I expect they'll be here a long time after," she concluded. Coriolanus saw the dead cities he passed on the journey to District 12. She claimed the Covey had traveled, so she must have seen them all. Not many of them. Panem used to be magnificent. Look at it now. Clerk Carmine brought Lucy Gray a plant he'd uprooted from the lake with pointed leaves and small white flowers. "Hey, you found some Katniss. Good work, Cece." Coriolanus wondered if he meant it to be decorative like the grandma's roses, but she immediately examined the roots from which small tubers hang. "A little too early yet." "Yeah," Clerk Carmine agreed. "For what?" asked Coriolanus. "For eating. In a few weeks these will grow into decent-sized potatoes and we can roast them," said Lucy Gray. "Some people call them swamp potatoes, but I like Katniss better. It has a nice ring to it." Tam Amber appeared with several fish that he cleaned, gutted, and cut up into pieces. He wrapped the fish in leaves and sprigs of some kind of herb he picked, and Lucy Gray arranged them in the embers of the fire. By the time Maud Avery and Sejanus arrived with their bucket loaded with blackberries, the fish were cooked through. With the hike and the swimming, Coriolanus' appetite returned. He ate every morsel of his share of the fish, bread, and berries. Then Sejanus brought out a surprise, a half dozen of Ma's sugar cookies he saved as his share of the box. After lunch, they spread out the blanket under the trees, half lying and half propped against the trunks, and stared up at the fleecy clouds in the brilliant sky. "I've never seen such a sky that color," said Sejanus. "It's azure," Maud Ivory told him. "Like Barbazor, that's her color." "Her color?" asked Coriolanus. "Sure, we each get our first name from a bud and our second from a color." She popped up to explain. "Barb is from Barbara Allen, and Azure, blue like the sky. Me, I'm Maud Clare and Ivory like piano keys. And Lucy Gray is special because her whole name came right from her ballad, Lucy and Gray." "That's right, gray like a winter day," Lucy Gray said with a smile. Coriolanus had not really noticed the connection before. He just thought that had covey names. Ivory and Amber brought to mind old ornaments in the grandma's jewelry box, and Azure, taupe, and carmine weren't colors he recognized. As to their ballads, who knew where those had come from? It all seemed a strange way to name a child. Maud Ivory poked him in the stomach. "Your name sounds covey." "How so?" he said with a laugh. "Because of the snow part. White as snow, Snow White," giggled Maud Ivory. "Is there a ballad with Coriolanus in it?" "Not that I know of. Why don't you write one about me?" he said, poking her back. "The Ballad of Coriolanus Snow." Maud Ivory sat down on his stomach. "Lucy Gray is the writer. Why don't you ask her?" "Stop pestering him, you." Lucy Gray put Maud Ivory beside her. "You should probably take a nap before we head home." "People will carry me," said Maud Ivory, wriggling to her feet, "and I'll sing for them." "Oh, my darling, oh, my darling, oh, pipe down," said Carmine. "Come on, try to lie down," said Lucy Gray. "Well, I will if you sing to me. Sing me the one from when I had the croup." She flattened out with her head on Lucy Gray's lap. "Okay, but not only if you hush." Lucy Gray stroked Maud Ivory's hair back behind her ear and waited for her to settle down before she began to sing soothingly. "Deep in the meadow, under the willow, a bed of grass, a soft green pillow. Lay down your head and close your sleepy eyes, and when again they open, the sun will rise. Here it's safe, here it's warm. Here the daisies guard you from every harm. Here your dreams are sweet, and tomorrow brings them true. Here is the place where I love you." The song quieted Maud Ivory, and Coriolanus felt his anxieties melt away. Full of fresh food, shaded by the trees, Lucy Gray singing softly beside him, he began to appreciate nature. It really was beautiful out here. The crystal clean air, the lush colors. He felt so relaxed and free. What if this was his life? Rising whenever, catching his food for the day, and hanging out with Lucy Gray by the lake. Who needed wealth and success and power when they had love? Didn't it conquer all? Deep in the meadow, hidden far away, a cloak of leaves and moonbeam ray. Forget your woes and let your trouble lay, and when again it's morning they'll wash away. Here it's safe, here it's warm, here the daisies guard you from every harm. Here your dreams are sweet and tomorrow brings them true. Here is the place where I love you. Coriolanus was on the verge of dozing off when the mockingjays, who listened quite respectfully for Lucy's rendition, began one of their own. He felt his body tense and the pleasant drowsiness drain away. But the coveys were all smiles as the birds ran off with the song. "Like sandstones to diamond, that's what we are to them," said Tam Amber. "Well, they practice more," said Clark Carmine, and the others laughed. Listening to the birds, Coriolanus noticed the absence of jabberjays. The only explanation he could think of was that mockingjays had begun to reproduce without them, either with one another or with local mockingbirds. This elimination of the capital birds from the equation deeply disturbed him. Here they were, multiplying like rabbits, completely unchecked, unauthorized. Co-opting capital technology, he didn't like it a bit. But Ivory finally snapped, curling up against Lucy Gray, her bare feet twisted in the blanket. Coriolanus stayed with them while the others headed back into the lake for another dip. After a while, Clerk Carmine brought over a bright blue feather he found along the bank and set it in the blanket from Maud Ivory, roughly saying, "Don't tell her where it came from." "Okay, that's sweet Cece," said Lucy Gray. "She'll love it." When he run back to the water, she shook her head. "I worry about him. He misses Billy Top." "Do you?" Coriolanus propped himself up in his filbert to watch her face. She didn't hesitate. "No, not since the reaping." "The reaping." "You remember the ballad she sung for the interview? What does it mean to you when you said you were the bet he lost in the reaping?" "He bet he could save us both, me and Mayfair," she said. "It was a gamble. Mayfair found out about me. I found out about her. She had her paw call my name in the reaping. I don't know what she told him. Certainly not that Billy Tope was her flame. Something else. We're outsiders here, so it's easy to lie about us." "I'm surprised they're together," said Coriolanus. "Well, Billy Tope's always going on about how he's happiest alone, but what he really wants is some girl to take care of him. I guess Mayfair seemed like a likely candidate for the job, so he went after her. No one can pour down on the charm like Billy Tope. The girl didn't stand a chance. Besides, she's got to be lonely. No brothers, sisters, friends. Miners hate her family, driving up in their flashy car to watch hangings." What Ivory stirred, and Lucy Gray moved her hair. "People are suspicious of us, but they despise them." He didn't like the way her rage against Billy Tope had faded. "Is he trying to get back with you?" She picked up the feather and twirled it between her thumb and forefinger before she answered. "Oh, sure. Came to my meadow yesterday. Big plans. Wants me to meet him at the hanging tree and run off." "The hanging tree?" Corley, instead of Arlo swinging with all the birds, mocked his final words. Why there? That's where we used to go. The one place in District 12 he guaranteed some privacy, she said. Wants us to go north. He thinks there's people up there, free people. Says we'll find them and then come back for the others. He's piling up supplies, not sure with what. But what does it matter? I can't trust him again. Coriolanus felt jealousy tighten his throat. He thought she'd banished Blaytop, and here she was casually telling him about his chance meeting in the meadow. Only it hadn't been a chance. He knew where to find her. How long had they been there, with him pouring on charm, tempting her to run away? Why had she stayed to listen? Trust is important. I think it's more important than love. I mean, I love all kinds of things I don't trust. Thunderstorms, white liquor, snakes. Sometimes I think I love them because I can't trust them, and how mixed up is that? Lucy Gray took a deep breath. I trust you, though. He sensed this was a difficult mission for her to make, perhaps harder than a declaration of love, but it didn't erase the image of Billy Tope blowing her in the meadow. Why? Why? Well, I have to give you that one some thought. When she kissed him, he kissed her back, but without much conviction. These new developments upset him. Maybe it was a mistake to be getting so attached to her. Something else bothered him, too. It was the song she'd been playing in the meadow that first day about the hanging. He thought then, but it had mentioned meeting up at a hanging tree as well. If that was their old place, why was she still singing about it? Maybe she was only using him to get Billy Tope back, playing the two of them off of each other. Maud Ivory awoke and admired her feather, which she had Lucy Gray fixed in her hair. They readied themselves to go back, collecting the blanket, the jug, and the bucket. Coriolanus volunteered to carry the little girl for the first leg of the trip. When they left the lake, he dropped back behind the others to ask her, So, do you see Billy Tope these days? Oh, no, she said. He's not one of us anymore. That pleased him, but it also suggested that Lucy Gray had kept her meeting with him a secret from the cubby, which made him suspicious again. Maud Ivory bent over his ear and whispered, Don't let him around Sejanus. He's sweet, and Billy Tope feeds on sweet. Coriolanus bet he fed on money, too. Just how was he paying for supplies for his escape? Tam Amber took a slightly different route to Torrey to berry batches so they could fill the bucket along the way. When they almost reached town, Clerk Carmine spotted a tree loaded with apples just beginning to ripen. Tam Amber and Sejanus went on, carrying Maud Ivory and together gear between them. Clerk Carmine climbed the tree, threw down apples, and Coriolanus piled them into a Lucy Gray skirt. It was early evening by the time they reached the house. Coriolanus felt exhausted and ready to return to the base, but Barbazor sat alone at the kitchen table picking through berries. Tam Amber took Maud Ivory to the hop to see if they could try some berries for some shoes. I told them to go ahead and get warm ones. It'll be cold before you know it. And Sejanus, Coriolanus looked into the backyard. He left a few minutes after, so said he'd meet you there too, she said. The hob, Coriolanus said, his goodbyes immediately. I've got to go. If they see Sejanus there without another peacekeeper, he'll get written up. So will I, for that matter. We have to stay in pairs. He knows that, and I don't know what he's thinking. But in truth, he thought he knew exactly what Sejanus was thinking. What a great opportunity to visit the hob without Coriolanus policing him. He pulled Lucy Gray in for a kiss. Today was wonderful. Thank you for it. I'll see you next Saturday at the shed. He shot out the door before she could reply. He walked double time straight to the hob and looked in the open door. A dozen or so people wandered around, turning over merchandise at the stalls. Maud Ivory sat in the barrel while Amber laced up a boot for her. At the far end of the warehouse, Sejanus stood at the counter, engaged in conversation with a woman. As Coriolanus approached, he made notes of her wares. Miners, lamps, picks, axes, knives. Suddenly he realized what Sejanus could buy with all that capital money. Weapons, not just the ones laid out before him. He could buy guns. As if to confirm shady dealings, the woman broke off talking when he came into an earshot. Sejanus joined him directly. Shopping? Coriolanus asked. I was thinking about getting a pocket knife, said Sejanus, but she's out at the moment. Perfect. A lot of soldiers carry them. There was even a game they played when they were off duty when you get to bet money on who could hit a target. I was thinking of getting one myself once we get paid. Of course, once we get paid, agreed Sejanus, as if that had to be understood. Suppressing an impulse to strike him, Coriolanus strode out of the hob without acknowledging Maud Ivory and Tam Amber. He barely spoke on the way back as he revised his strategy. He had to find out what Sejanus was mixed up in. Logic had failed to induce a confidence. Would intimacy work? It wouldn't hurt to try. A few blocks from the base, he laid a hand on Sejanus' shoulder, bringing him to a stop. You know, Sejanus, I'm your friend. More than a friend. You're the closest thing I'll ever have to a brother, and there's special rules for family. If you need help, I mean, if you get into something you can't handle, I'm here. Tears welled up in Sejanus' eyes. Thank you, Corio. That means a lot. You may be the only person in the world who I actually trust. Ah, trust again. The air was full of it. Come here. He pulled Sejanus into an embrace. Just promise not to do anything stupid, okay? He felt a nod and assent, but knew the likelihood of his keeping the promise was almost nil. At least their busy schedule kept Sejanus under constant supervision even after they left the base. Monday afternoon, they retrieved the traps from the trees again, although they had been undisturbed for the entire weekend. Not one contained a mockingjay. Contrary to expectations, Dr. K seemed pleased by the birds. It seems you even heard in more than advanced mimicry. You have all their survivor skills as well. Forget replacing the cages. We have plenty of jabberjays. Tomorrow we'll try the mist nets. By the time the soldiers got out of the truck on Tuesday afternoon, the scientists had chosen locations with heavy mockingjay traffic. They broke into groups. Coriolanus and Bug were with Dr. K again and helped erect sets of poles. Between each was a stretch of finely woven mist nets designed to capture the mockingjays. Nearly invisible, the nets began to yield results almost immediately, entangling the birds and dropping them into horizontal rope pockets in their mesh surfaces. Dr. K had given instructions that the nets were never to be left unsupervised, and that the birds were to be removed immediately to keep them from becoming too snarled to make the appearance as trauma-free as possible. She personally removed the first 3 mockingjays from the nets, carefully treating the birds while holding them securely in her hand. When giving the go-ahead, Bug proved to be natural, gently untangling his mockingjay and placing it in the waiting cage. Coriolanus's bird began a tortured screaming the minute he touched it, and when he gave it a squeeze designed to persuade it, it drove back its beak into his palm. He reflexively dropped it, and in a moment it vanished into the foliage. Noxious creature. Dr. K cleaned and bandaged his hand, which reminded him of how Tigris had done the same on reaping day when the thorn on Grandma's arms Rose had punctured him, not even 2 months ago. What hoped he had that day, and now look at him, rounding up mud spawn in the districts. He spent the rest of the afternoon carrying the caged birds into the truck. The hand didn't excuse him from bird duty, though, and he resumed cleaning cages back at the hangar. Coriolanus began to warm up to the jabberjays. They really were impressive pieces of engineering. A few of the remotes lay around the lab, and the scientists allowed them to play with the birds once they'd been cataloged. It won't hurt anything, one said. In fact, they seemed to enjoy the interaction. Bug wouldn't participate when he grew bored. Coriolanus made them record silly phrases and sing bits of the anthem, seeing how many he could cooperate with one more click. Up to 4 sometimes. If their cages were close together, he always took care to erase them by doing a final quick recording in which he was silent, ensuring his voice would not end up in the back of the Citadel lab. He stopped with the singing entirely when the mockingjays began to pick it up, even if there was a certain satisfaction in hearing them pipe up the praise for the capital. He had no way to silence them, and they could string one melody out endlessly. On the whole, he was beginning to weary of the infusion of music in his life. Invasion might be a better word. It seemed to be everywhere these days. Bird song, covey song, bird and covey song. Perhaps he didn't share his mother's love of music after all, at least such a quantity of it. It consumed his attention greedily, demanded to be listened to, and making it hard to think. By mid-afternoon Wednesday, they collected 50 mockingjays in total, enough to satisfy Dr. K. Coriolanus and Bug spent the rest of the day attending the birds and shuttling the new mockingjays over to the lab, table to be numbered and tagged. They finished before dinner, returned after to prepare the birds for the travel to the capital. The scientists showed Coriolanus and Bug how to fasten the cloth covers in the cages and then relocated the cover craft, trusting the pair to take care of it. Coriolanus volunteered to do the covers while Bug carried the birds to the hovercraft and helped settle them in for their journey. Coriolanus started with the mockingjays, happy to see them go. He moved the cages one at a time to his work, snapped on their covers, wrote the letter M and the bird's number in chalk on the cloth, and then handed them off. Bug was just leaving with the 50th cage, which contained a madly chirping mockingjay, when Sejanus bounced in the door, sounding a bit hyper. "Good news! Another delivery for my ma." Bug, who'd been down about the birds leaving, cheered up a bit. "She's the best." "I'll tell her you said so." Sejanus watched Bug move off and turned to Coriolanus, who just collected the jabberjay tag with the number 1. The bird twittered away in his cage, still imitating the last mockingjay. Sejanus' grin had vanished, and an anguished expression had taken its place. His eyes swept the hangar to ensure they were alone, and he spoke in a hushed voice. "Listen, we've only got a few minutes. I know you won't approve of what I'm going to do, but I need you to at least understand it. After what you had just said the other day about us like being like brothers, well, I feel I owe you an explanation. Just hear me out." This was it then, confession. Coriolanus's entreaties for sanity and caution had been weighed and found insufficient. Misguided passion had won the day. Now was the time for the pieces to be explained. The money, the guns, the base map. The moment the whole treasonous rebel plot would be revealed. Once Coriolanus heard it, he'd be as good as a rebel himself, traitor to the capital. He should panic, or run, or at least try to shut Janus up, but he did none of these things. Instead, his hands acted on their own, like the time he dropped the handkerchief into the tank of snakes before he been aware of deciding to do it. Now his left hand adjusted the cover of the jabberjay cage, while his right, concealed from Sanus's view by his body, dropped to the counter where a remote sat. Coriolanus pressed record, and the jabberjay fell silent.